Yeah, today we got André Ledermüller, CEO of Heideland Gameworks, currently working on Anchi games. And today he will be speaking about scripting for indies, how to improve your workflows and make the most out of your solo game development. Hi, André. Thank you for being here.
Hi, nice to having me. It's I need to switch back here. Oh my. So yeah, it's a great opportunity to speak about this topic because I find it. So when you asked about speakers for those talks, so usually what happens is just this kind of a pre-thing here. When I stream my game development things, so people just can come into the stream and showing my things I have, and then just people like, oh, what is this for a magic thing? So because people often, I don't know if it's experience or something. I don't know. It's just often where people just asking what this is, and then I explain it and just talking about how it improves my workflow and save time. So basically, just jump into this. So this is scripting for indie solo game development. So I'm a solo game developer. Usually I just buy a few things, so I'm doing everything on my own except for music. So stuff which needs to be high quality, like materials, getting from GameTextures.com, music, which for Anchi I have composer, Czech composer, named David Sullivan. Can find it on Twitter as well, and audio fix. So everything, but otherwise than that, everything else I do on my own, which is kind of challenging sometimes. Okay, but today focusing on the scripting side of parts, which can improve your life a lot. So quick look at the agenda here. So just a few words on who I am, why I think I can talk about those. This topic here. So just a quick introduction to scripting, because I don't know what the how much lessons you have on this kind of topic. So, but it's in kind of real life thing. Why you should probably learning a scripting language is also interesting point. Then another thing which is not tied to scripting especially, but it's a very important thing because makes scripting easier is conventions. Talk about this a bit. So then general quality improvement, just a few words, and then this is the biggest section here. This is just forward kind of things, and then the biggest section is examples from my game Anchi. And usually I'm just when I write a script for a game, then I just port this over to the next game, just reuse everything. I don't want to write everything always because when it works. It's important for quality as well. Okay, so as I already said, so this talk is just an introduction into scripting. It's not a scripting tutorial, which is important to recognize here. And the main focus, as I said, is just on what you can do with scripting, what scripting could do for you. If you just have knowledge, and I will show you that you can do with just a little amount of work a lot. So this is basically what it is. So, and this is why it improves your development process and quality. So who am I? My name is said. It's still Schaaf Ledermüller. This will change in future. Therefore, it's André Ledermüller. So I'm 35 years old, currently a senior software architect, technical lead, as I'm do my game development in a side thing and company. Because it still is not in a point where I can live from it. So I'm doing this now like 21 years. Started early with 14 years back in the days where Basic was a thing, and there was no internet at this time. Oh, whatever. So, and I'm working on small to large global projects for all sorts of different companies like Bosch, Infineon, Global Foundries, HP, and so on. So, and as said, I'm also CEO of Heideland Gameworks. And I've streamed game development almost every day on Twitch. So if you want to see how I do things, then just look up my channel. I will share the URL, and then just follow the development. It's interesting because I developed Anchi mostly from the beginning on stream every day. So this the games I made. Just this what I grabbed this from Twitter here as my profile tweet thing. So Anchi is now my 9th game I make, and so I started very easy back in 2010 with the Labyrinth, which is just kind of this time Slenderman was a thing. So and this was my first game I really made and released, and this was made for Unreal Engine 3, and everything else is I do with Unreal Engine 4 because it's just the thing I just works for me. I also evaluated other engines like Unity and CryEngine and whatnot. So yeah, big variety of games here. Well, it's not too. Gamescom Z is kind of special because I did this during Gamescom, so I was an exhibitor there with another game, and then got boring somehow there, and I just started to the live game development. I created Gamescom Z from scratch there. Was great. So just this, and then we show you just quick videos. Fall of Cthulhu is from 2017, I think, and my current game, just to get an idea what it is about here. Oh, there's no audio. Sorry for this. Okay, this is a kind of an RPG game. Not the real RPG, is more a story-based game. This was a demo, 2.5 hours long. Was a part for a bigger project which never happened anyway. This is Anchi, which is close to gameplay done. Thank you for sharing the link. Just thought awesome. There's just 2 projects here. So with Anchi, but the quality raised a bit anyway. So Anchi is a hard project, so it's really interesting thing. So, but it's what I do, and it's just an insight on the quality I produce now. Okay, quick introduction to scripting. So this is, I said, this is my definition kind of thing. That's probably not what universities say, but this is how I see it in a daily life. For me, scripting is just a subset of software development. There's no real distinction between what is scripting and what is programming. Usually, what you see is how it is used, and usually a script engine is integrated into the application, like Python integrated in Maya or Blender or Unreal Engine, this kind of things. And it uses commonly known languages like C# or something, but there's also specific script languages which are just made for for a specific thing, like a game probably. What you can find is basically there's two types of scripting languages. There's text-based programming and visual scripting, which is kind of a new thing. I think this is when kind of popular with Unreal Engine 4 when they introduced it with the blueprint system. But anyway, there's a lot of industry kind of applications where the user just putting graphs together with boxes, and then just the flow is executed. The workflow, for example, for fabs, wafer fabs or something, where you just have those steps during the production which needs to be worked on or processed. So this is not super new, but and I think in terms of game development, visual programming is kind of thing now. So the nice thing about the visual programming is that it's when I started this is what I at least said. I made this in mind with the artists and users, because the artists usually I think it's by nature, I don't know, don't do a lot of scripting or programming. And interesting is also the way around. I as programmer often say I'm not an artist, I just can't do, which is I think wrong, because I'm a programmer, but I see that my stuff is probably not the worst anymore. So therefore I think that this talk is also interesting, because just want to show that even as artists you are able to getting into this and getting something valuable out of it. This is what I think here. So the scripting language is often easy to learn and use. I mean, depending on how deep you go, we're talking not about big applications. It's just a thing which improves your daily life. And visual programming is not made to solve complex issues. This is another thing to note. When you can, but if you think about Unreal Engine graphs, or probably have the same in Unity, if you see the character animation states, sometimes the I don't know what the name is for this, but it's getting very messy and out of hand sometimes. And this is kind of bad, because it gets hard to maintain and to ensure quality and it's bug free and so on. So what can you find for scripting languages? I mean, I said Python is very commonly used. Schaaf is used a lot. You can find Lua, which is probably also known from I think the biggest Lua users were World of Warcraft, and still are, I think. So yeah, probably you don't know this, but the whole World of Warcraft UI is made in Lua, as far as I know. And therefore, if you write extensions for World of Warcraft or mods or something, you have to write this in Lua, because it's their scripting language. And Lua was also embedded until some point into or the main scripting language for CryEngine, for example. So there is JavaScript, and then Unreal Engine 4 blueprints, Unity Bolt. I found a few there. I don't know what in Unity the default is. If there is a default, I don't know. And then obviously batch and shell scripting, and just kind of OS or Windows kind of thing, or Unix scripting. Almost all modern game engines provide now visual scripting in some sort. Probably you have to install a plugin or something, but you can find this mostly everywhere now, which is a great thing, because the artists can do logic, game logic. And this is also true for authoring software like Blender, Maya, Studio Max, Photoshop, but name it. They all contain some sort in scripting module, which is, just to give a quick example on Photoshop, for example, think of write a script. If you embedded a layer, which is probably named text_UE4, and having a simple script which exports the texture as UE4 texture on save. It's a simple thing, right? It's just a few lines of code, but it's a lot of value, because it always does this thing for you. You don't have to think about it, right? So that's just a quick example here. And the Python is commonly used, as said. And then just a note here: Unreal Engine 4 C++ feels more like a scripting language, not like real C++. It's not that super crazy stuff anymore. This is important, because often when users talk about is C++ programming, and is it hard or not, I think no, it's not. I mean, there's still some C++ stuff going on, but most of the times it's really like, not that hard to get into it. It is important also for later. So just this slide of wall of text here. Scripting is not like a full stack programming language. The functionality is often reduced to solve just a specific requirement, which is important because we don't write full applications. We just want to solve a specific problem, specific issue. So therefore, a script, or in terms of scripting, even for game script or gameplay implementation, you often just have a script which does a specific thing, like trigger something, or doing this or doing that, and where full applications have thousands of source files and millions lines of code. This is nothing you will find in scripting. So because this is not considered scripting in my world. I can write an application and embed a JavaScript interpreter and use this as my scripting language for my application. Right? So there's a big difference. And so the question why learning a scripting language for me is, depends a bit on you for sure, but I think it's easy to learn. It's not like super hard to get into scripting, because most of the times if you look into authoring software like Blender and also Photoshop, when you work with the software, you always have like specific modules where you can trigger an action, and you don't need to know what happens behind this thing. You just have to do this for me, and this comes in where it's kind of easy to get into this because you don't have to dive into the whole programming language thing. Sure, you will step over like kind of specifics, what is a for loop, what is if statement, and so on. But this is easy to understand. I think this is not super hard, and when you get into this, it's getting easier and easier. But this is why a lot of software has this now, because it's easy to do, and with a few lines you can just extend the editor, for example, with new functionalities, which is also great for you because you can add functionality, which makes your life easy. And I will probably say this like 500 times this presentation. And also, I think this point here is very interesting as well, because cut the need for programmer during concept prototype phase is this is the thing, I think, because often the artists will want to do something and then have to talk to a programmer and just get your idea across. What do you want to do? And then this back and forth between the different people. Instead, now you just go, okay, I have this airplane and I want this particular effect there, and just fly around a bit to test this concept, this kind of type of gameplay thing, and you just write a visual script for this, which does this for you. It's not a lot of work, but it has a lot of value because now you have something to test, you have something to play, to show, and you go to probably to your senior and show this. Oh, here go, I have this kind of thing, and this is awesome, and you can test this. Probably has bugs. It's not not performant, but you can see this, and now you can take this thing, go to a programmer, and the programmer says, okay, I make code out of it. And because we know that's working, but this is something you can do. This is, and you can do this all the time. So this is a big advantage here, which gives you, as I said, the ability to write game code as designer and artist. And also another big thing is obviously automation of repetitive tasks. I will show you what I mean with this. So as I said, faster prototype concept iteration, as only one developer is needed, saves resources, money, and there's also, because of this, there's more time for other tasks, quicker evaluation, and so on. Another thing to note is that most of the software tools now have kind of a hot reload button, or hot reload functionality, which is also super important for scripting. Cuts down the time a lot. Just change something, press save, like in Unity, for example, save this, and it gets automatically hot reloaded into the system. Just press play and done. It's like 1 second. It's super quick, instead of having the full C++ thing and then just having to wait like half an hour for the compilation. It's like there's a huge difference. This is something you can do with scripting, not necessarily with real programming kind of thing. Does this make sense? So another thing I find very helpful about this is that if you have understanding about programming and how logic works, it's easier to getting in or bringing everything together. So often you have those discrepancies between the programmer and the artist because both of them having different kind of thinking. And I notice also from me personally. So even I struggle sometimes with my kind of the artist side and the programming side too. But it's easier to bring this together if everyone knows or has at least a base understanding about what's going on. So the artist with some programming skills can have a better understanding about the programmer. So what in the world he thinks or she thinks, the programmer thinks. So therefore I think this important because the overall communication is better and therefore it also increased quality and easier integration of graphics and so on. Because if the artist knows, okay, there's limitations because of probably the DirectX or OpenGL or those kind of things, then the artist can work in a way that everything is prepared to work with those systems, which is easier, right? One contrapoint is just you have to learn it, right? You need the time to learn it. And this is, I'm not sure if the company is always willing to do this. I know from a few companies who likes to do this because they know the advantage for it, but it's probably not true for everyone. So therefore, as we have talked about this, gaming industry is very competitive, and this where it comes in when someone asks about doing home side projects. This is probably something where I say, okay, probably I should learn a scripting language in my free time. I don't know. This is up to you, but I would recommend this because just a bit more value. So this was the quick why learn a scripting language, and then talking a bit about conventions. So probably you have seen this already in authoring software, Unity or something, where you have specific naming things going on, and so on. So just given what I mean with conventions. So for example, you have a code convention, right? Code convention tells you how to structure your code. What is the naming of your classes, how are variables named, names in general, and all sorts of naming conventions, for example, and how code is structured and so on. So then there's clean code. Probably have already heard of this, but there's another thing which I probably should know. But there's conventions which want to serve a specific thing. We will talk about this later a bit. And then general naming conventions, there's now from Unreal Engine here, but just think about this MAT underscore for material, TX underscore for texture, underscore base color, what we see like in the substance, archives, namings, and so on. So this is naming conventions, basically. And you see what this does is everyone knows, if I write underscore base color, everyone knows what this thing is, right? This is a diffuse / base color texture, also for normal and others like the displays and so on. And this is also true for object names and level map names and so on. Same here, folder structures, very important to have a good structure. So for it's just an example what I use. Usually I have a prop folder and this contains base, meshes, material, props, and other things like effects and post-processing. But this is, I will show you why this is important for scripting, especially. And also where and how to store assets and source control systems, SVN, Git, Perforce, and so on. This is all important to have conventions. So therefore, I said here basically everything within the project should follow a specific set of rules. Even if it's kind of burden on the developer side to have this in mind and to take care of all the naming conventions and where things go and so on. But it helps overall to align everyone. So when someone sees a specific thing, he already knows, okay, this is this is this, right? This is base color. This is a map. This is whatever. And it's up to you how you define your conventions. The only thing is that you have to follow them, the rules you create. And there are best practices out there for like C# naming conventions, C++ naming conventions, and so on. And there's even for Unreal Engine, there's a whole page to just say, so just try to describe what their best practices are. And so how does it actually improve the quality? I think we can reduce the amount of repetitive tasks. I will show an example for this. What I mean with this is, but you know, everything which you have to do like 3 times, you should probably do something about it. If you know, okay, I need this more often than 2 times, then do something. Because every time you do this work, you know, if it's half an hour work, then probably just write a script. I don't know. So and then scripts can have to provide design-specific solutions like texel density optimization or rock generator or an object export thing, or you know, just thinking about all sorts of tasks you have during your daily work, and then just try to figure out, okay, when I export in something in Maya, I have to click on export button, I have to find the folder, I have to typing the name, making sure that the naming convention is correct, and so on, right? And that everything goes in correct folders. And this is something you really can automate if you have a good convention. Therefore, I say convention is important because it helps you for scripting to create easy solutions. So yeah, and it just reduces all sorts of confusion, which leads to less maintenance work because everyone does really the same. Or should we do the same, and everyone just knows what's going on. And this is where, as I said, comes in handy here, because we can combine 10 manual actions into just one script with a few lines of code. So this means, if you just for this exporter example, so just think about if it takes like 10-15 seconds to export this, and you have to iterate on this specific model like 500 times, which can happen. I mean, just add up this time, and then just think about if you're a solo developer with limited time every day, you don't want to do this, right? It's just you want to have this automated solution that just takes 1 click to do the exact same thing, which is half a second instead of 15. That's what I mean with this, or by this. So this leads to more time available for other tasks, like art, pass, making things pretty, for example, and not clicking buttons. And then there's the obvious thing here, like only the script needs to be maintained and is shared to everyone to the team. So we solve this issue just once, and if you have a team like 10 people and everyone needs to do the same things, and now you have this like 10 lines of code which saves everyone 90% of time, and then you have 10 people doing the same thing over and over again. I see the value of this, because it just saves a lot of time. And over time, as you write those scripts and everyone's using this, so this leads to a very well-tested script, and it's battle tested, and there's a lot of crashes and so on, which also leads to a higher quality in general, because the scripts are really doing what they're supposed to do, and everything in the project gets the same thing. So therefore, I write here, within the power of scripting and the ability to solve a lot of common issues, we can improve all sorts of workflows and solve a lot of issues during game development, where we obviously have a lot of repetitive tasks all the time because of its nature. This is even true for, just talking a quick example for a blueprint, for example, something where you have visual script and, having trigger-based actions, and you always write, prefab something which has just a trigger, and you always have to re-implement those functionalities. So why not creating a base object which has the trigger and the base functionalities, and just inherit from this base thing? and so time saved. Like I have a new trigger. Oh, inherit from trigger base. Done. It's like, and the functionality is tested, and everything is there, and so on. So this is kind of a higher level of software development, and because generalization and inheritance and so on. But it's absolutely possible. That's just another example here on how it helps you to improve this. Okay, sorry. Okay, now we come to the interesting section here. So that was a quick introduction, what I see, what scripting is and what it can do for you, and what the advantages are. So, and for my examples, I have taken this from my game Anchi. This is everything I will show now is what I use on a daily basis, or more or less on a daily basis, because I have to workload my tasks, because between art and mocap and animation and programming and so on. So often there's times where I have 3 months between an art pass and programming, because I just do other things in between. And there I will talk about this later anyway. Okay, so I thought about this, how I will do this, but I thought about this like having a small piece of paper. You just look at this thing and try to structure this. So the first thing, as it goes from basic to advanced. So a very base thing is on the command line tool, which creates a base object. So what this does is basically it creates a new game prop with predefined folder structure and the Blender setup. So in my case, and this is important because I have a Blender file, which is kind of a base file, has the whole setup I need with all the scripts I have. And whenever I create need a new object, prop for a cube, for example, or whatever, a lamp, then I just open the shell and execute this batch script, and then it creates all the folder structure, it copies over the blend file and so on. And this, it's from having the need for an object to actually see it in an engine. It can take a very short time, depending on the object, obviously, but it's a quick setup. So there is no typing issues. There is no, there's just no things which can go wrong because of this convention thing and generalizations and generalization things. And it's also interesting because every game prop looks the same in editor. So it doesn't matter if I open an environment folder, whenever I take a look or in the prop, I always see the same thing, which is a big advantage. And this thing, 27 is wrong. So this is language is batch script, type is batch script, length of code is 27, and there's just one file involved. So just kind of try to show you that you can do with a little code a lot. So therefore I said I don't know where 72 came from. But this is what this thing looks like. There's just the two echo parameters here, and there's an object path which comes from the command line, and then there's this kind of mkdir, make directory commands for base, meshes, materials, blueprints, textures. So this is always the same for everything now, and it copies the blend file over. So and I just execute this command, my prop is set up, I just open the blend file, start to work, and then comes the next plugin or the next thing, the next script, which helps me with another step. So this is something I just wrote like 4 or 5 days ago. This is even if it's really simple, and this is a Twitch stream sound control, because as I said, I stream on a daily basis, and people, so music for Anchi is very special, and you want to test your game or showing people, so when they come into stream and just want to show a bit of gameplay, you always have to go into browser and mute or pause music and so on. So it's just a very small tool written in C#, which turns down or mutes the browser when a specific window is focused. So it's a very easy thing, but it's a huge value because I save a lot of time, a lot of sanity thing. So this is also important because it's kind of marketing thing. But if people come to the stream, you don't want to mess around like 30 seconds to find your tab where music is playing, for example. No, you just want to press play, and everything needs to be as ready as possible to show or pitch your game to those people. Just super valuable. And this is the code. So even for non-programmers, it should be, it's just a while loop. It loops over and over again. And it just checks if the active window title is event editor for Fmod, for example. Mute Chrome. Is my window title Anchi Game Preview? Oh, mute Chrome. It's not? Oh, unmute. Set volume 15. So that's it, right? This is the script. This is super powerful, but this is what it is, like 20 lines of code here. And that's it. There's nothing more to it. But it's an insane value. And it really has. You see this on my stream. My streams is super smooth now because I don't have to mess around with this anymore. Another tool I wrote, I use a lot of, all my materials are substance-based. And so I make my own materials sometimes, not often, but sometimes with Substance Designer, for example. And then I have a huge library folder with all my downloaded substances from GameTextures.com. But what I need is that I can regenerate all of my textures, and probably with specific resolution settings for Nintendo Switch, for example. And this thing just goes through all of the substance files which could be found or can be found in the project and just regenerate all the textures. And this is 650 lines of code, and there are some customizations in it where you can put a property file besides of the substance archives, and then all of the properties within the archive gets updated from those specific properties, for adding grime or dirt or some those kind of things. It's just 650 lines, one file, but the same thing here. You just save a lot of time. You just have to start this thing. It's starting during nighttime, going to sleep, come back, done, right? So no manual work involved. This is especially important for kind of pipeline things, how your project works, for example. So next thing, this is one of my super life-saving things. This is a Blender FBX export helper I wrote, and therefore conventions are important. What I say is, in Blender I have now a plugin where I just have one button, export collection, and it applies naming convention. It exports the mesh to the correct folder, and everything is just at the right place, and I can do this with just one click. So there's no mess around anymore with like file and searching and what I said. And it has some options in it to also work with Unreal Engine UCX, auto naming stuff and so on. But actually the whole plugin has 320 lines of code. And it's just one Python file in Blender. Super usable, super helpful. Saves tons of time. This is what I said. When I create a new prop, I just call a create base object. Everything is set up. Open the blend file, create more object, press this button, collection export. Everything is set up. Unreal Engine imports automatically. Take a look into Unreal Engine. Oh, looks good or not? Oh, probably not. Just go back, change, iterate on the model, press this one button, and go again back to the Unreal Engine, right? And it's just super quick. Iteration time is crazy. What you can do with it. And actually, this just looks like this. Where I have this is the actual window. This is the UI for collection FBX export. This is for Blender 2.8. I still have some of the old from 2.79 in here. And this is the button I click like 1 million times. But also use as UCX is very important for me because in Unreal Engine you have your UCX collision meshes, and you can define them in blend file. And so what I do now is I just create all of my collision meshes in when I'm done with it, I just select all of them and the active object, and then click this button, and everything is auto-named so that it fits or it matches the Unreal Engine requirement of naming convention and so on. Otherwise, this would have taken like a lot of time to typing everything and so on. So this is just one click. Also some specialized things for Substance FBX export, which prepares the materials probably a bit different and so on. It's just stuff where I would only want one click. And this is what I say here with the convention for folder structures. Looks like this in my case here. And in base, I have my blend file. And in meshes, I have my SM static mesh _ live seed, for example, and the Unreal Engine asset. And this is all naming convention. This is nothing super special. It's just something which I do, and my scripts can take advantage from it, and I just can write scripts which work with those structures very easily. So saves a lot of time. And this is just an organization thing, right? How I structure my work, my code, and my names and so on. But super useful, super helpful. Another thing I wrote a long time ago is an UV helper plugin, and this is say for non ad hoc objects, super helpful because always fiddling around with texture densities for tiling textures and so on. It just takes a lot of time to for all the objects you have to make it just right. That everything has the same texture density, and I wrote a Blender plugin with 600 lines of code here. And what it does is, I have those properties here. I just put in my values for my texture density. This is 5.12 here in this case. I have a max texture size, 2K. Then I have a property allowed UV oversize before it starts to tile things. Or the textures, and the tiling texture size. So in this case would be 1K tiling texture size. And then I have 3 other operations. Unwrap just takes the model, unwraps it, and applies the texture density. Auto unwrap is I just take a model and then it does the smart UV project in Blender and auto unwraps everything and applies texture density. Super useful for not too important objects which are in the background somewhere. I don't want to spend time with this a lot. And then another awesome tool is Center at Cursor. Once I made a scene where I had kind of an old boathouse kind of thing, with a lot of old planks and rotten stuff, and everything should get the same base texture basically. And then you do an unwrap, and you have to move around all of the UV islands and so on. And I just have a button for it. I click into my UV editor, place the 2D cursor somewhere, and press this button, and all of the UV islands get centered around the cursor. And if you have 1,000 of them, it's just one click, and it's done. So, and the interesting thing is, if you have like an UV atlas texture with different textures on it, and you just have to click or place the 2D cursor within the specific texture region. Click this button, and then everything gets placed into this specific texture region. And it's just super useful because it saves a ton of time. And here's the result of this unwrap operation. So you see everything basically has the same texture density from small objects to very large objects. And it's just one click. So I can select all of those objects, click unwrap, and then it's done. Right, so this is super helpful and saves tons of time. And Anchi has now around 4,100 assets. So probably see it's a lot of the time cut is huge. So okay, another thing, Blender plugin Armature Animation Bake. This is more technical, but it's super awesome because it allows you to do other crazy stuff. So this basically renders and Blender Armature into a texture, so the animation. So this is which gives me the ability now, if you think about skeletal animation in an engine, you just can't have like 10,000 characters with skeletal animation because the performance reason the performance cost just too high. But instead of having the animation rendered to a texture, which you can sample in a shader and apply it with vertex displacement, right? It's super useful. But because you can now render like 10,000 static mesh instances and apply this texture, and having, think of birds, for example, and now you just can do like, crazy stuff with it. And this is how it looks like. So there is this is a texture. This is what the animation looks like. So this just encoded. Basically, on the x-axis there is the relative position to the rest pose, and the y-axis are frames, and it starts and at the bottom here with frame 0, and then it goes up to 30 frames. So this is padded, therefore is black area here. But what it can do now for me in Anchi, this is from zone 2 here, example. Let me show you this. Probably not the full thing. I need the music to to make this a great thing, but just show this here. So this is what it then looks like. And this runs on Nintendo Switch. Stuff going on. And this is I think it was 1,500 birds with those animation thing. And it's just one static mesh instance. So this is and in terms of scripting, what it does now for me is I have the system now with this 200 lines of code and the kind of special shader. But whenever I now need to create a new animal, it just takes very little time, and I can do a lot with it. So this is also, it's more a technical thing, but I just want to show this that think outside of the box. I think I want to say with this is it's not stick to your the usual thought processes, but try to think outside of the box. There's a lot of stuff you can do with kind of creative solutions. This one is so as I do all of the mocap stuff on my own here in my room. So what I wrote is a Blender plugin which streams mocap data from the mocap software into Blender, which is a huge time saver because you don't have to fiddle around with FBX export and import this into Blender and retargeting probably and all this sort of stuff. It just takes a huge amount of time. But instead, as the mocap software sends out the data during if you play the animation, I can grab this data and just apply this to an armature. This is just 670 lines of code, but probably you see if I have a lot of animations that I have for Anchi, this is what it looks like in Blender here. I just say start streaming, have my rig applied, and some more values here for hips offset. But this is now this, right? Just press play and access neuron software, and it gets streamed to Blender. Or you can see the code on the right side here. And this is actually from the game, just in the game. So this is, it's also more technical, it's a bit more advanced, but it's not a lot of work, right? At the end. To do this, it probably takes a bit longer, but the overall value, if you think about the project which takes 2 years, and you have this, and you spend, and you just save always like 5 minutes, it's like, the value is just huge of those things. I like this. I'll just play it again here because I think it's kind of impressive always. When people see this, because it's just when you have stuff like LiveLink, for example, where you can stream this data also in Unreal Engine, but there's nothing for Blender, for example, as far as I know, and you always have to do some post work. I mean, this is just streamed over. I have to do some post work to clean up the animations a bit and so on, but but this is takes a lot of time. Cuts down a lot of time. So another thing is the UE4 components, which are kind of scripting. So actually, it's a landscape generator. It has this C++ class, and it has 230 lines of code. There's some Perlin noise stuff involved, but actually has 2 files. It's a header file and C++ file. But what I can do with this, if you think about Anki has a very specific kind of landscape where you have from super. It's a desert game basically, where you go from super soft, like smooth desert things, to very super abstract environments, rocky and spiky and whatnot. And if I would have tried to model this or sculpt this with landscape editor, no way, just no way, that I would be able to do this in a time frame where I say, okay, this is something which could work. So instead, I wrote a landscape generator. It took me like 2 days to write this thing. But now I can generate landscapes, and I can generate landscapes like this. And this is just this 200 lines of code, right? I can go from super smooth. This is 4 square kilometers here size. I can go from very smooth desert thing to more abstract. This case here, in this example, more abstract, rocky, spiky things here. This is super important for game development, because when I started to work on Anki and I needed something to work with and to iterate on, I just went into this thing and generated landscapes, and from this point, I already knew, okay, this will work, this will not work. Those kind of things. So super helpful. And even now, as I started to work on Zone 5, I just decided I have to extend this a bit to provide a bit more gameplay in the start section, or the beginning of the game. And I just generated a new landscape, put this into the map, and it took 5 minutes to do this. Not 2 weeks. Right? There's a big advantage of this. And I was quickly ready to test it, to iterate on it, and just getting stuff done. So I think this is the last example here I have. UE4 blueprint, just a random trigger. I had to just to show this. I had to go for the screenshot. I had to clean this a bit up and break this down here. But essentially, why is this great for artists? I think because it's really easy to. I think it's can understand. There's the input action activate. There's some variables. If someone is within the trigger zone, show cinematic bar component. Show cinematic bars. Hide input helper widget. Destroy the trigger zones and location marker if there's something. Play an animation, and if everything is done, hide cinematic bars. So this is a very simple script which can be done by, I would expect, mostly everyone. And this is a messy example here. There are functionalities or things where I just can say, we have a module which says enable companion AI, for example. It's just one small box, but it does a lot of stuff in background, and you can enable disable companion AI, or disable movement of my creature. So where just can't walk anymore, but look around, for example, and other modules disable movement and look around and so on. So this is really easy to apply and to get write those kind of game logic triggers and so on. And then there are some more examples I use here. I have a Trello bug reporter implemented here. This is a bit more complex, but still not tons of code. I have a plant tree procedure generator because I don't want to mess around. I don't want to spend like 50 hours on creating for one tree type 20 variations. I just press a button because why not? Saves tons of time. So then I have for my Axis Neuron software, I have a shutter or button shutter, which I just can take an Xbox controller, put it somewhere here in the room, and press a button, and for example, it triggers the calibration or triggers recording or stop recording and so on. Really simple, just a few lines of code, super useful. Rock generator, obviously, everyone loves rock generators. Because it's this is the one thing I always spend like tons of time, but Yeah, it's very random. So then I have something which I can destroy, or have destroyed object generator. I just put in mesh something and then it breaks it up. So I then have community management automation. It's also just a script. It's just a side note. It's not tied to game development, but to have a tool which posts automatically to three different Twitter accounts, Instagram, and Facebook. It's just one click. Oh my god, my phone. Just a side note here. So you can do also something like this with scripting, right? This is not a lot to do. So then I have my big substance library, and I have an archive preview image renderer where I just say, okay, here, regenerate all of the preview images for my materials. When I add new materials, for example, or something, or have updated. And then another script from external script, small console tool, fix Unreal Engine shader priority. People who work with Unreal Engine knows that sometimes the material compilation just takes a long time because of wrong shader priorities. But this is a side note here. So I think that's very examples. And then conclusion is, so basically scripting enables the artist designer to implement their own stuff and test it and iterate on it and present it to a programmer later and or to the team and show what you're up to and what your ideas are. Obviously, as I said many times now, huge amount of time saving. Script creation is also easier because of conventions, because I know where stuff goes and how it's named and how it looks like, or if the repetitive tasks can be cut down. So obviously, I think the quality improvement, because you do everything always with the same thing, with just one button click, is obvious because I don't have to take care of the stuff, because it just works after some time. Oh no, I'm not Todd Howard, but it just works. And another thing is, if you have conventions on a project, like me, if I have some meshes and props which I haven't seen in like 1.5 years, but I still know where to find it and how, because everything looks really just the same, and I don't have to think, was it now like final A11 BC? I don't know. I just have this one blend file, open this, and I exactly know what's going on. And this leads also to increased maintainability, because everything is just the same, and it's the same place, and it's also easy understandable if you have for example, if you have a new team member which you have to introduce into the project. What you can do in this case is, those are the rules, set it to the project, and the new team member can start on the project, and within a few minutes it's clear what's going on, right? There's less overhead time in general on the team. But this is experience stuff from all the projects I did and so on. I mean, find this also on the internet because it's best practice. And just a conclusion here, scripting can offer an incredible, powerful step within the workflow. So most of the points are valid for non-solo dev projects as well. But sometimes manpower can just do the same job in a better way. If you think of having like 10 character artists, probably it just takes longer to write something for a specific problem, which would take like 6 months to write. Just makes no sense, right? It needs to be reasonable. So, but in case of solo development or small team game development, you need to be as efficient as possible in every way, every time. Whatever you do, because you just have limited time always. Sure, you can work 10 years on a game, but where's the point? Right? Because you have to earn money, and if you do this as business and so on, you just really need to cut down the time and make your life as easy as possible with those kind of things. But yeah, as I said, it applies to teams as well as solo developers. But I have a bigger need as solo developer for those kind of solutions. Oh, that's it. Thank you. So you can find my Twitter handle _Andre Schaaf and Twitch Andre Schaaf. So as said, mostly daily live streams, game development. That's it. I'm done. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Andre. I already posted a lot of links into the chat, so if you want to check that out, feel free to go there and look up his Twitter and stuff. And we already got some questions in the chat. And I would start with the first one. If you would like to speak up for yourself, feel free to do so. Otherwise, I would just read them to you, Andre. So the first is by Marcos. How many scripting languages do you know, and which one is your favorite?
I don't have. I know a lot, but I don't have any favorites because in project usually you take the thing which serves the purpose the most. There is no kind of language battle. I mean, it was thinking of probably 15 years back is probably different, but over time as more languages as you learn, you're getting into this kind of state where you say everything just have a for loop. Where's my for loop? What is my if statement? Where's my map? Where's my this kind of things which every language has, and therefore it does not. If Blender uses Python, fine. Okay, I'm fine with it. So that's what I say. Don't stick to favorites or something. Be open for everything because every language has something which makes your life easier in some way, and you just have to choose which one it is for the specific you want to solve. That's right.
Awesome. The next question is by myself. So in the beginning, you said you outsource stuff like music because it's an important part. What else do you do besides scripting, and what do you outsource?
I on a project basically I outsource music materials, textures and stuff, and sound FX. Because those things needs to be really high quality always. You can if you create a game and you have blurry textures or just a bad soundtrack, people will turn stop playing the game in like 3 minutes. So therefore, this is something I really take care of. That having a bad model probably which has 1,000 polygons more than it probably would need. The player don't see this, right? This is just kind of internal quality issue, but it's not present to the player in the way until it affects the frame rate. Right.
Awesome, gotcha. So the next one is also kind of important for myself because I was like, as you showed the textile intensity stuff, I was like, damn, that's so crazy. That's so good because when I started like 3D modeling and I wanted to do pixel art on 3D models, you really struggle with that if you do it wrong. So the next question is by Michael Koch. Are your Blender plugins, the FBX exporter, UV helper, etc. available online?
Oh no. Sadly not. The issue or the thing about this is not that I don't want to share it, but a lot of those things, if you write scripts and you write it in a way that probably it's not presentable to a wider audience, because you can probably live with a bug you make. There's just probably a specific bug, but you don't want to share this with others. You will find this sometimes. So therefore, my plugins are very specific and probably sometimes messy. I thought about it, however, and probably I will release them at some point when they get some rework. Because I got 1 or 2 requests already for the Axis Neuron to Blender Stream plugin, which is people like this somehow. So, but this needs a cleanup because there's a bug. But I don't know if this Blender specific kind of thing. But I just can't publish this now in the current state. I need to rework this code and make it just presentable to a wider audience. There's not a time constraint. Just I have this solo development time constraints everywhere. Okay.
Another question by Michael. Is there a legal form of indie side business you would recommend, like GbR, GmbH, or such?
To, let's say, you just want to start with, like I just have a regular, what's this, Einzelhandel.
Unternehmen,
Einzelunternehmen. Nothing special. We are using an Unternehmengründung, which is fine. There's just different implications on what the legal side is. So I have an tax accountant, Steuerberater, and so it's really easy for me to do all this stuff without any. But I think in Germany you should try to have a GmbH basically, because this is the most trusted company thing which we have.
Awesome. So, what I was also thinking, like for myself. Oh, wait, Paul, join in real quick. Your question is probably.
We're using.
Yeah, I have a question too. It's a bit a different direction, but so you were talking about scripting, right? And you also said it can be used for development itself, or at least for prototyping. I've seen made entire games by scripting, but not really, because no. Okay, wait. Let me rephrase that. I've made prototypes by scripting, right, for a game jam, and I can imagine that games can be entirely by scripting. For example, I think Omno is a good example. If you know that, is a single developer project.
Yep.
Which I think
baked
was made.
it.
Huh?
I baked it.
You baked it? Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's a really cool game.
Yeah, it is.
Really.
Yeah, I saw it too. Is it this?
Yes.
Yeah, Omno. Yeah.
And so, what my question would be is, in your experience, where's sort of the threshold where I basically need to start worrying about architecture, right? Because that's I think the big difference, right, to scripting and programming, that you need to worry about architecture and how you're.
Yep.
Yeah, because for me,
it's difficult. As I said, there is no real distinction between the things. It's a blurry line. Sure, you can write entire games just with Unreal Engine 4 blueprints, and there's absolutely nothing wrong about it, because, for example, Anchi uses like 90% blueprints. This is not the thing. What I just wanted to say is, there's this, if I talk about scripting in this kind of case here, let's say writing small tools which improves your life, you just have to be aware of. That's what I said when one of the first slides here at the beginning, where I just stated it was like what I said, not made to solve complex issues. You can, but there's a drawback, because the more complex the issue gets, the more complicated it gets to write those things. But therefore, the distinction between what is scripting and what is, you can write a whole game with an Unreal Engine, or let's say another engine, but I don't know, Godot or something, where you just have JavaScript, for example, right? So you can do this. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. But at some point, the more complex the issues get, you're starting to just have to think about architecture. So how are you assuming events gets handled and sent around and those kind of stuff? But this is software development. This is not this kind of scripting I'm talking about.
But exactly. And my question was like, is there, from your experience, any project scope from which it really, like, you can't get away with scripting anymore, right? Or is it just like because in my feeling, for like a 48-hour game jam, scripting is still fine. Everything which starts like in the 2-3 months category, for my experience, you already need to start talking about thinking about architecture. Or do you think, like, if there isn't, then I mean, no problem.
I would probably say, this is a scope-dependent thing for sure, and absolutely also on your ability. Do you can handle this? Do you can handle this? Can you handle an 5-hour content game with just scripting? Fine, just do it. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I don't think there's no real. It always depends on your experience, on your scope, and you have to make, if you, when you wrote your game design document and you know what you want to do, and then you have to think about the architecture. So what's needed to make this happen, or having a good guess about what's needed to make this happen. And then you see, probably we need landscape generation, for example. And if you do this with scripting always has this cost of performance cost because it's interpreted in runtime. Sometimes probably as Python compiled to an intermediate format, but there's a lot of variables you have to balance between complexity, speed, performance, maintainability. There's just a lot of things. You can start, and this is something which happens a lot of times. I think, at least as far as I have seen it, people are starting just with this kind of scripting stuff, and after some time, they decide to move over to C++, for example, because just getting out of hand at some point. So
yeah, exactly, and then that's the reason I was asking, because you have to make this decision in the beginning, right? And you could also make the wrong decision if I start implementing architecture and it gets out of hand in the beginning. I'm doing like over engineering, right? And then I'll kick myself as well. So that's why I was asking for your opinion, but it's good to hear that. I mean, okay, could have thought that myself. That's very project dependent, and that even like if you're doing a 3 weeks project, that you can't say clearly if you're gonna need architecture or not.
Let's just give just want to add something to this. Is it depends a bit also on the experience of your team members and, for example, the programmer. If the programmer has a lot of experience and knows how those software concepts work, it's easy for the programmer to implement those kind of architecture things right from the beginning. With this in mind, for example, if you have an item system somehow, an RPG, it's easy for the programmer to know, okay, this is an item. I can generalize this as item base class, put everything in there, then it's getting a lot easier to start with this, because you don't have to, oftentimes when you start with development in, terms of experience, you write stuff and you refactor, rework things and rewrite, and you learn from this and, going through different concepts and so on. So and if you have an experienced programmer, he already knows, I have to do this like this and this because there's those constraints, and, it's really depends on a team, let's say. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Paul. What would you say, like, for example, I started with scripting in Unity, and I started with learning programming by using Unity. Afterwards, I learned Java, and then so on. I tried out different stuff. But do you have like any recommendation for people who just started with scripting in Unity, for example, and want to expand their business further, like optimization when you work with Blender, or like how do you know how to code stuff like that?
Okay, this is a very specific and a very wide range question. No, I think people often ask this, what to recommend to start with, but it's hard to recommend something. I think C# is easy to get into, because it's easy to write, easy to learn, easy to understand. So I would recommend C#. Java probably not so much. Even I use Java most of the time doing my work, but this is more like a business thing, because high-tech stuff has like 95% Java applications everywhere. So there's no choice except for sometimes. But I think C# is better to start with. But I would recommend probably either Java or C#. I think just to get into all of this kind of, because it's easier to learn. If I start with C++ and have to mess around with pointers and references and all that stuff, right? It's just a bit overwhelming at the beginning. You can do it, but I would probably just start with C# or JavaScript to get the base, then understanding about how logic works and algorithms and this kind of things.
Michael has another question. As an Unreal guy, would you generally consider Unreal for mobile apps? I hear that it gets a bit heavy on those devices.
I don't know. Probably not. So see, I'm not. I know what you mean with Unreal guy, which is absolutely okay. but it's the same with programming languages. I'm not agnostic to something where I say you have to use this because this is what I like. I'm saying that I would implement a 2D game, for example, rather in Unity than in Unreal Engine, for sure, and probably would do the same for mobile applications because no, the framework is just not as heavy as you said it here. But on the other hand, probably for high graphic whatever things, probably I would prefer Unreal Engine in this case, or a CryEngine, or what even Blender game engine. It really depends. Don't be agnostic. Evaluate. I'm always saying you need to evaluate your stuff, right? You want to create a mobile app, take your time. Take your time, even if it costs money, a month, 2 weeks, a month. Download all the engines, prototype something in all the engines, deploy it to your target system, and just check if everything or what works the best for you. This is really the most important thing. Not to be agnostic, but really make sure that you choose the best thing for what you want to do and what works the best for you. Even if you have 10 people who just can't stand Unreal Engine because of the kind of thinking you need to work with Unreal Engine, because people getting better into Unity, for example, use Unity. There's just no reason to use Unreal Engine. This is what I think about it. I like Unreal Engine because it works best for my kind of thinking. So yeah.
Awesome. So Josef wanted to add to that question, his opinion. It does require quite a bit of work to reduce size. If you package an empty game with a mobile preset, you're around 70 to 100 MB out of the box. From a coding perspective, it's all right. It's just a bit more work for 2D games and mobile apps. Thanks for sharing. When it comes to project management, like as you said, like you have many different Twitter accounts, Facebook accounts, whatever you stream. You have a company, you have websites for that. What do you use for project management when it comes to all the social media tasks?
Social media, I'm not that good at social media, honestly, because the time constraints. This is always. I found my workflow now. Where I say, okay, I just record something quickly and cut it and upload it to Twitter to provide some updates, information. I'm not super good at those kind of things because I have to work on my game, but on the other hand, you need an hour a day for social media things. It's just so therefore I don't have a real workflow, and therefore you only find me on basically on Twitter under my account Andre Schaaf and on Twitch. Even if I have Instagram, I just post there rarely on Facebook. So yep.
Paul?
Yeah, one more question. Because you said check out research. How do you do research if you are thinking about implementing a new tool? Because I always, when I encounter a problem, I always think, okay, someone must have already had this, and then there must be a solution already. And then, but the programmer inside me really wants to program it myself because it's fun, and then I sort of have to kick myself to research it. So my question to you would be, how do you research? How long also do you invest into researching before you get down writing it yourself?
So yes, research can take quite some time. That's true, but it's depending on the issue. If I have a very simple thing, then why should I research? Even if there's already something, right? This is a kind of this mentality which we have now with, for example, NPM and TypeScript stuff, where you just need like 5 lines of code, but you add a dependency to a 5 megabyte library. So it just makes not a lot of sense because we have to evaluate. So if I put in this dependency, I also get all of the bugs from dependencies, right? This just have to try to find the how to describe this. It's hard. What's the right amount of research time? No, it's like that. If I know it would take half an hour to write this thing, I just write it. If I need something more complex, I take my time to research until I find something, and then I just look at the options and think about what I want to do, what my goal is with this thing, and evaluate the software with this goal in mind. And if there is nothing which fits my needs, then I will write something for it. But if there is something, even if I have to pay it, then I just do it, right? Because but I always, but what I do is then I always take care that this thing what I buy in this case is kind of an industry standard thing. This is also super important because, you know, if you don't want to use something which is written by someone which is used by 3 people, you can do this. But on the other hand, if you have a kind of industry standard tool, you learn this tool, and if you apply somewhere at the company, a game dev company, and you can say, okay, I use this tool on my daily basis because that's what I do, right? So this is another thing I have to balance always. And going back here to the project management thing, this is what my Anshi board looks like. I use Trello most of the time, but I use also Jira and Monday.com and whatever is needed by work or customers. I do also some side projects with my company. The last thing I made was I wrote an 3D building generator out of terrain data for a Norwegian company. That was a side project, but super interesting. And they use Monday.com, for example. So it's the same thing. Don't be agnostic. Just check and research what's out there and what fits you most. I like Trello because it's the thing how I work best. So I have just a lot of columns here with all of the different things and project planning. There's times attached and even here screenshots. And this is some of my base level layouts I made 2 years back. How, for example, the first zone will look like in terms of level design and so on. So you find this for everything here. And then going into the zone 1 feature bugs and so on. Just fully planned. So I even have scripts where someone can post. So through Twitch chat, I wrote a Twitch bot. And if you put in a specific command with a feature request, for example, and this feature request will then send to, I have an Anshi public collaboration board from the viewers. So if they have something to say or see something, I just send a feature request into this board here, and then I go like in working on those tickets, and So this is actually an image here which was made by it's not a big image, but yeah, this was made by a viewer. And screenshots and whatnot. So this is stuff I use here, and it works for me pretty well. Because it's not complicated, it's not a lot of overhead to work with this. It just needs some kind of sorting here to keep it organized. For example, this one here is outdated now, but this is schedule, just to know where your phases are, what you plan, the time ranges, release versions. This was for composer here, for the OST and so on. So this is what I use basically. You can do a lot with this if you maintain it. Then there's absolutely nothing wrong, and you can use this for whatever. I mean, I have just see this here. I have 500 boards for whatever. I even have boards from very old game which never saw the light, with Segway. It's just a lot. So, but this comes with. I think this is just an over time thing. The longer you work on projects and industry projects, and just gaining experience over time, you're getting better at it. And I always like to show this to people, just that they get an idea on how it could be done.
Thank you so much for taking your time, Andre. It was a pleasure to have you.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
The video will be available in a few weeks, probably on YouTube. I will send to you if it is. And thanks for everybody for participating.
Yeah, thank you. It was really nice. Have a nice day, and yeah, see you soon.
You too. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
I'll quit the meeting now for everyone. See ya.